Hey, this is Leif Gamford. I played the cash register thief in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek Podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Rory, and joining me are my co-hosts Dan.
Hello there.
And Andrew.
Hello.
And also joining us is a very special guest. We have actor Lou Temple, who played Axel in the Walking Dead TV series. So how are you, Lou?
I'm great. Thank you, fellas. Thanks so much for having me on Everything Geek podcast. I'm super excited because I'm a big fan of your show, and also it gives me a chance to cross the pond a little bit and get over into Europe, and which is my favorite thing to do outside of running from zombies and making passes at Carol. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. It's great having you join us.
I have to preface this conversation. Does anybody have the short hair?
You're talking about that quote, aren't you?
Yeah, my hair's rather long, but I always like to, judge people on their hair. Clearly, actually, that was more Axel, but yes, I'm so happy that we are able to have a nice visit. It's Saturday afternoon here in Los Angeles, and as I was saying, it's absolutely brilliant, gorgeous weather. The kind of weather that you go to Spain, Madrid,
Portugal,
France, south of France, Bodrum in Turkey, or Croatia this time of year for. So I get to have that in my backyard. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great having you join us on the podcast. So we'll get right into the questions. And my first question for you, Lou, is how did you first decide you wanted to be an actor?
That's a good question. Honest answer. I followed a girl with a nice pair of jeans into an acting class, and then I was trying to secure a date, and I noticed that what they were doing in this class was something that I felt I could do quite easily, and or that it would suit me. And so I gave it a try, and I don't know how good I was when I first went down on stage, but I know that I enjoyed it, and it was something that that I connected with, and I wanted to pursue it right away. And so I started to discover what it was to be an actor or to learn its craft. And that that inspired me and interested me even more. I adore the process of acting. I adore discovery and the research of a character and developing some particular color or characteristic in a role that I play. And I think I enjoy that as much as I do actually doing the role. So that makes it a lot of fun to audition. You know, you don't always get the things that you go try out for or audition, and I'm okay with that because I get the opportunity to try. So that's a long-winded, and you'll find I have long-winded answers. That's very typical of a Southern American, but that came to me rather late in life, fellas. I was in my mid to late 20s when that happened. So that wasn't something that I was, you know, right out of school at 17 and trying to make that happen. I had a whole other career prior to that as an athlete, and so that was my good fortune to actually be able to take on another wonderful career, which has served me so well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. My second question for you is, which have been some of your most favorite roles to play in your career?
Well, I like to think that there's something great in everything that I do, or I like to try to find something great. And while not all the movies are always great, I hope that they are. I go into them with the intention that they will be. And that's the same approach I take for each of the characters that I take on. There are characters that I think that are my favorites because I was able to do something with them that I had intended. And then there are characters that are my favorite because I was rather surprised at what came from them. I like the character that I played in the movie Unstoppable with Denzel Washington and Chris Pine and this guy Ned Oldham, because I recognized that he was going to be a bit of a reluctant hero, and this lovely director and a wonderful man, God rest his soul, Tony Scott, allowed me then to kind of go off the page or the script, if you will, to find this character who was in a truck the entire movie, who showed up with a lot of bravado on the front end. We kind of had to bury him in the middle of the movie so that at the end, when he shows up with the red truck again to save the day and help them stop that train, those were all really lovely transitions that we got to make. I adore the role that I played in a small independent movie called Waitress, a Cal, who was the cook, because he was kind of full of hot air, and he ended up being kind of a sweetheart, a nice guy. I also like the role that I did for Rob Zombie in The Devil's Rejects, Adam Banjo, because Adam Banjo was this typical loudmouth Southerner who had a lot of bravado, but then when it all came down, when they're held hostage in the hotel room, he kind of puts a skirt on. He kind of becomes a bit cowardly, and that gave me the opportunity to complete the arc at the end when he has to fight Otis for his life. And so I really liked that opportunity that Rob gave me to develop a full arc. And then, of course, there's Axel from The Walking Dead, which may be my favorite because there were so many hidden secrets and shadows to him. You know, is he a pathological liar? I mean, he's told 2 or 3 stories about why he was in prison. Is he a rapist or a serial killer, or just a really sweet guy that got caught between a bullet and a target? And all these things were kind of left undone, and I like the ambivalence about how we were building him. I like that he started out as kind of a junkie that was white knuckling and needing a fix, or at least that's how he wanted to be portrayed. And then he turns into a mechanic that's just a good colloquial Southern good old boy that wants to be everyone's friend, that maybe tried too hard to ingratiate himself into the system, who might have been a little bit of a pervert, but again, he was locked in prison with dudes for a long time. And then he's kind of funny. He kind of had a bit of levity, which was what we were trying to do. So maybe Axel. That's another long-winded answer. We could have ended this podcast 30 minutes ago. I could have said, I was 28 when I got started. Axel's my favorite character. Thank you. But that wouldn't have been any fun.
Yeah, no, it won't have. It's definitely better to give longer answers. Yeah. So, my third question, and kind of an ironic one given what we were discussing earlier, but what did you think of the way Axel tried to hit on women while in the prison? Carol.
Well, I think that one of the things I loved about Axel is he always said what we, the audience, were thinking. And I think that when you look at the lineup and you're as guys and you're sitting there on your sofa every Sunday night, which is when it airs here. Does it air on Sunday in the UK?
Yes, I think.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, right.
So,
it plays in America the week before, and then the week
Right.
after we get the first episode. And then
Yeah.
the second episode we get the first one.
Sunday night, the male population. Well, let's address the fairer sex. The female population is looking at the players, and clearly they're going to pick out the rugged, handsome, smoldering good looks guy who's super cool, Daryl. And nobody really has to say anything. But if we're dudes sitting on the sofa, we're going to say, well, Lori's pretty hot, but man, she's going to be tough to date because she's a bitch. And let's see. And then Andrea is even worse. You know, she's a gold digger. She's going to want your money. And then we go to the youngest one, who's really cute, Beth. I like her, and she seems so
she's
sweet.
My age.
Yeah, and she's your age, and she's delightful and a little nymph, and that's great. But then you've got Carol. Well, clearly she's a lesbian because, you know, I mean, she just looks. So what I loved was that Axel just would say these things, you know, that we all were thinking, but probably wouldn't say. We didn't. We all probably would have our best British European decorum, and Axel doesn't have that. He's not as bad as Merle, but he still sort of says what he thinks in kind of a fun way. So yeah, I think that Axel was very honest when he looked at Beth as a female that was a young, attractive girl. I never felt like there was anything perverted. I'm not sure he knew that she was 17 until he asked, and then thought about it after having been in prison for as long as he was with a bunch of guys and being kind of in that situation. I don't think that mattered at 17. So I'm not sure that was an issue. Look, in a zombie apocalypse, I think that those idioms kind of get thrown out the window. And then when he clearly assumes, you know, he was kind enough to reference that Maggie was with Glenn, and he's not going to get in the way of another man's property. And yeah, once again, you got the short hair, so you must be a lesbian. Oh, you're not a lesbian. My, this is interesting, you know. So I felt like Axel spoke from his heart and carried his heart on his sleeve. Very American and Southern American at that. I don't think there was a lot of hidden agenda, and I think that he was very genuine in his interest, at least in the end, with Carol. He had found someone that he could talk to, and it was that much better that she was of the opposite sex, and the fit was there. I don't know. Is that an answer to your question?
Yes, definitely.
Yay. Yay.
So my fourth question for you is, who have been some of your favorite actors to work with in your career?
Oh, that's a great question because it's different on every level. I like working with Denzel Washington. I've worked with him twice now, and I always get an acting lesson, and it's never an acting lesson, fellas, that I'm aware of. It's always a few days later I go, look, D didn't do anything in that scene, and yet the whole scene was incredibly powerful and about him. And I was running around that scene like an idiot, and I'll probably get cut out of it. He does a lot by doing very little. He has an incredible presence, and I just adore him. I like working with Johnny Depp because I like observing his process. He works from the outside in. So in other words, he builds his character through physicality, through a walk, through his movement, and I see that slowly over the course of rehearsal start to form. I got to do Rango and most recently The Lone Ranger, which I think just opened up in the UK.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not sliding Ireland or Bulgaria, and I apologize for that. Though I've never been to either place, I'm so close. I do movies in Poland and I do movies in the UK. So it seems to me I could just slip over. We try to come every year, so I think we'll come over for Christmas, Dickens Christmas, and slip off into Dublin for a little Christmas holiday. And then my next time over to Eastern Europe, I'll do a film in Bulgaria or Romania, one of those two.
No.
But I don't know which one. But getting back to your question, I love Johnny Depp from that perspective. I really enjoy working with Tom Hardy. I did Lawless with Tom Hardy, one of your countrymen, and he's got a lot of animal magnetism like Brando. You know, he's got a lot of he's got a lot of power in him. I really like how he goes about his work because he really enjoys it. And his take is, if it's not fun for you, who could it be fun for if they watch you, you know? So I like Tom very much. Gary Oldman was also in Lawless. That was a delight. He likes to say that, you know, there's always a good role. The movies may not be that good, but you can make something of the role. And I thought that was very good advice. I enjoyed working with Keira Knightley in Domino. I thought she was a great professional. You know, I thought she was so young and so good at what she did. I had fun working with Mickey Rourke in Domino. He kind of he's unaware. I think he's totally aware, but he sort of blusters through a scene and then all of a sudden magic happens. And that's fairly impressive, I have to say. So there's been a lot of amazing actors I've had the opportunity to work with. I love this guy, David Strathairn, who was nominated for an Oscar in Good Night, Good Luck. I like some guys on the rise. There's a guy named James Badge Dale who was just in World War Z, who was in Flight. I think he's fantastic. I think he and Hardy are the two guys to keep your eye on. And there's an Australian named Jason Clarke, also from Lawless, who's the new lead in Planet of the Apes, and he's amazing too. So there's so many really great ones that I've gotten the opportunity to work with. There's some great ones that I didn't get to work with, like Paul Newman, who was probably my all-time favorite, that I missed out on. I would have loved to have worked with Gene Hackman. I think he's kind of retired. There was a character actor, kind of a cowboy type actor named Warren Oates that I really liked working with. Now, there's a couple other guys in the horror genre who are dear friends that I love working with, like Bill Moseley from Devil's Rejects. Sid Haig is another guy. And I really have a lot of fun working with Danny Trejo, and he's very good, actually. He's really great at improvisation. And then there's one of the all-time greats, Malcolm McDowell, who I've had a lot of fun. He told me that you know, if you have to play Hitler, you play Hitler. That's your job, and you can't worry about if it's a bad person, because every bad person was born a good person. So I have the great opportunity to learn a lot from a lot of wonderful people. That's a tough question. That wasn't one person, was it?
No. Well, I did say actors, so.
Yeah, yay. I tried to mix it in with some boys and girls. I've recently done a movie with Abigail Breslin. I really enjoyed that, Little Miss Sunshine. One of your boys, Sean Bean, as I like to call him, Sean Bean, was in this film, and he's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really cool. So my last question for you is, do you have any upcoming acting roles or other projects you would like to talk about?
Yes, several. First and foremost, there's a small movie called A Fighting Season, and this is a military movie, and it's very specific to recruiting young people, essentially your age, to join the military, the United States Army, and it's kind of a bunch of lies, and it's about a young soldier who's been over in Afghanistan, and he comes back because he's been shook with post-traumatic stress syndrome, and he's trying to be reassimilated into the United States Army by coming into a recruiting office. And there's a lot of lies, a lot of drugs, a lot of lies, and a lot of abuse by the United States government with young people. You're never going to see any fighting, and then these kids are coming home in body bags. So I like this movie. It could be my Messenger, or In the Company of Man. It's sort of Hurt Locker meets Training Day, and it's me and another wonderful actor named Clayne Crawford. Second, the movie I just referenced is in edit, called Wicked Blood, and though the title sounds like a horror film, it's not. This would be Breaking Bad meets Donnie Brasco meets Sons of Anarchy. It's about crystal meth. It's about drug use in the South, in the Southern Mafia. And a young girl wants to try to save her uncle because her mom and dad have been killed, and she is trying to get her uncle out of the drug world. He cooks crystal meth, and he also uses a little bit. And I play Abigail Breslin's uncle, and she does it under the confines of a chess game, and she's trying to beat Sean Bean. Also in this movie is a DEA agent that's undercover as a motorcycle gang leader, played by James Purefoy. Y'all know him. He's got a show called The Following over here in the U.S., and he's great. He's fantastic. Also in this movie are Alexa Vega from way back in the Spy Kids days. So those two movies I'm really excited about. And then there's a movie that is a zombie movie of all things. It's called ZOMBEX, and it's about conspiracy theory that the United States government distributed post-traumatic stress pharmaceuticals in New Orleans during the hurricane, and it went rogue and turned people into flesh-eating cannibals, which isn't too far. We've had some experiences in real life with some of these. And I'm a libertarian DJ that's on to the government and goes out on the road to look for the antidote. And I do this movie with Malcolm McDowell and Sid Haig. It's kind of zombie land. It becomes a bit of a road movie, and it's pretty good. Of course, The Lone Ranger is out right now overseas, and that's a good movie. You know, Gore Verbinski, Johnny Depp, Jerry Bruckheimer. They don't miss much. The movie's great. It's a good romp. It's like Pirates of the Caribbean, except with horses and cowboys instead of pirates and pirate ships. So those are three projects that I'm excited about, and I'm fixing to go do 3 or 4 more in the next couple months, and just keep moving. Just keep. There's a couple other films. There's a ghost story called Home with Samantha Mumbai. Remember her? She was a pop singer in the UK. You don't remember? You're too young. But Heather Langenkamp. I've got 2 movies called Monica, and one's with Serena Vincent from Cabin Fever. So there's a lot of good stuff out there. I just try to do a good job in everything, and hope that the movies turn out okay.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, thank you very much, Lou, for answering all my questions, and I'll hand you over to Dan now.
All right. That's so kind. Nice to have a visit, and those were all good questions. And your turn, Dan.
Thanks. Okay, first off, I'm gonna start off and say kudos on your role in Devil's Rejects. That was a
Thank you.
damn messed up scary movie. Just what? Just
It
yeah.
it is. It's great because it's what Rob Zombie does best. That movie was so great, Dan, because the characters, all of the characters, were so rich and all of them were so well developed. And I think it was the type of movie that Rob does best with, because he carries every player's story arc from the beginning to the end, and therefore the audience cares about each guy. I mean, even the guy that was selling chickens, you know, we like. And so I think when he was trying to follow the blueprint on the Halloween franchise, maybe he wasn't doing his thing so much. So I adore Devil's Rejects.
it's kind of like the poster child of the new age.
That really kind of opened the door into some of what they called, you know, torture porn and sort of all the hostels.
Yeah, like so.
And I just felt like what we did, even at the end, we cared about those three bad people. You know, we kind of raised them up as heroes when they got all shot up. And so I felt like there were a lot of really great characters in that movie.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, and it was very intense. All the scenes were very intense. The work that we did in the fight, you know, with Adam and Roy against Otis, Jeffrey Lewis, myself, and Bill Moseley. That was 2 full days of real intense physical work. And of course it pays off in the movie, but man, doing it, we were out in Lancaster, California in the desert, and it was hot and sticky and we were grumpy, and it wasn't a lot of fun. It's fun now, but it wasn't that on the day.
It paid off, but it didn't pay off for all the people who are afraid of clowns, because you know who I mean.
Yeah. You know, what's wrong, kid? Are you afraid of clowns? Don't we make you laugh? Don't you think we're funny? Yeah. I don't think that probably put clowns out of business. I don't think anyone really wants to hire a clown to come to their child's birthday party to entertain them after that.
Yeah, I don't think so too.
That was one of Rob's really fantastic pieces of work.
Aside from his music career, he does incredible movie making.
Has his film Lords of Salem come out to Europe yet?
I think I've heard of it.
It's a witch movie. It's about the witches of Salem, and it's very Polanski. It's very Rosemary's Baby. So it's different than the movie we're talking about. So look for that. It's quite good. I am not in it, but I'm a big fan, obviously. Rob and I are good friends, and I love his work, and I love working with him. He's the kind of guy that really wants to do well, and he wants you to do well. He whatever it takes for you to make the best scene possible, he's there to provide that. So he knows what he wants, and he wants what he knows, and there's not any real gray area in between.
Nice. So I'm wondering, should I wait after my Axo questions to ask this one, because it's about Rango? Because talking about Devil's Rejects, Zombex, and witch hunts, and then talking about such a sweet movie like Rango, is it weird to follow up like that?
No, I actually think there's some continuity there, because having worked with Gore Verbinski, and in particular on that film, that movie was made for adults, and as wonderful and fun as it is, there's a lot of adult humor and dark humor that's there. So maybe the through line would be to go from Rob Zombie's Devil's Rejects, Lords of Salem, maybe talk about his animated movie Super El Bisto that he did, and then you can walk right into Rango. But Rango won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature. I'm so proud of that. I was so proud to be Mr. Fergus, also Mr. Turley, Sergeant Turley, and Mr. Fergus that was the owner of the general store. So it was so much fun to do that movie. We didn't really understand the process, but we essentially filmed that whole movie, and then they went back and animated it based on our movements as actors. So we couldn't have our scripts in hand. And for Johnny Depp, when he showed up, he's like, Gore, you know this is a cartoon, right? And Gore's like, yeah, I get it, but you have to memorize your lines. They built sets for us in Universal, and we would act them out, and then we'd walk across the sound stage to a sound booth and do the lines the exact way we had just done them. So Rango was so much fun because we got to really pretend a play as you would when you were a child, to be an animal, to be a frog or a rabbit or a bird or, you know, a lizard. That was so much fun. That was Bill Nighy's very first attempt at an American accent, and he was so nervous, guys. And yet he did so well. He played Rattlesnake Jake, and he was so great.
All the character animation and voices were amazing. But what did you think of the design of your character, Fergus? And did you imagine him like in a different way, or did the creators show you a character sheet of Fergus?
They did. All of the characters had a sketch design prior to us going in, so there was an idea. I didn't necessarily connect with what Fergus's age was portrayed, but the voice that I was trying to do when I was a child, there was a Disney animated movie of Robin Hood. Yeah, and so there was a sheriff, the sheriff of Nottingham, played by an old cowboy actor named Pat Buttram, and so he always kind of spoke like this, and so I always tried to sort of imitate him, and then for Sergeant Turley, there was a show in America called Petticoat Junction, and there was a old fella named Uncle Joe. He sort of spoke like this. So that's sort of what I was doing with him. You know, at the end of the day, Gore Verbinski, who does all the Pirates movies, now the Lone Ranger, he's so brilliant and won an Oscar for Rango. He was listening to all of our voices. I mean, we were cast based on the melody of the music that he was trying to make with these voices. And so, yes, Fergus was designed, as was Turley. And so I was trying to kind of give them, because I was doing two voices, very different, distinct voices from each. It was just a lot of fun.
Really awesome about the channeling of the Sheriff of Nottingham. That's really awesome.
Yeah, that
Brings back memories.
one of my favorites.
It is.
Yeah, is that Rex Harrison? Did Rex play Robin Hood?
Not sure. I have to look it up.
I don't think so. Now that you mention it, I don't think so. But one of my all-time favorites, Phil Harris, played Little John. He played Baloo the bear.
Oh yeah.
In the Jungle Book, and so in the Jungle Book, there's that panther played Bagheera, and it's kind of the same well done, proper British voice, very much like Rex Harrison, but I'm not saying it was him.
It could be. Back then, I think Disney did kind of hire people they work with very successfully for multiple pictures. That's why Shere Khan, I mean, the tiger sounded like a few other, because they did other movies with villainous cats. Now I'm going long-winded with my explanation about Robin Hood. Oh my.
It's great because we went right from Rob Zombie to a Disney movie. The point of Rango was, and I don't think any of us understood this, and I call it the madness of King Gore, and he is so brilliant. His design, I'm going to knock Pixar off their pedestal or have the best animated movie of the year. I am. And he was right. He did that. But make no mistake, he did not make that for our children. He made that for us as adults. And it was genius. This movie looked like a Sergio Leone movie, and everybody was so great, and the cinematography was fantastic, and it was lit well and drawn well. I mean, it sounds so crazy to say an animated movie was lit well, but the lighting that was used was fantastic, and the music and everything was just perfect. And so it was such a great experience that I'm so happy that it rewarded with the acknowledgement of an Oscar. And also kids enjoy it too. it's a good movie regardless of animation or not.
Indeed.
I mean, some of those characters are so lifelike, and they're so ugly and raw and real and scary. You know, like Where the Wild Things Are. They're really kind of creepy that, you know, my daughter was not willing to look at them. And I get that. And to bring them to life as actors was such a delight. Snort and run around and be thirsty in the town of dirt. It was great. It was really one lovely experience, I have to say.
Now let's get to the Axel part of my questions. I'm sorry.
Yay.
Okay, quick one. How would you describe Axel in one word?
I would describe Axel as complicated. I think there's a certain amount of complication that is abound in Axel. Oh, here's a better word. This was the word I knew it was. I just got warmed up with complicated. I would call him contradicted. More so, he's a contradiction of himself.
Yeah, I think that's indeed.
Yes.
But given how contradicted he is, which was your favorite episode with Axel?
My favorite episode as an actor would be the second episode that we did. It was the point in which Tomas gets killed, Andrew gets run out, and basically it's just Oscar and Axel left.
Yeah.
And begging for their lives, and Axel really pleading for his life, and then Oscar being very stoic and saying, you know, don't talk, man. And then for them to throw us into that morgue of people that we had known that had been executed. All those men in that prison had been headshot, executed because they did not turn into zombies. And those were guys that we knew, and it was almost worse. And so all the colors that we got to play as actors in those scenes, and particularly with Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus, was some of my favorite work that I did on the show. I really enjoy Axel's last episode where he is telling Carol the story of Axel, because what I really wanted to accomplish, again, as an actor, was a sense of peace. And I wanted not to play the end of what was going to happen, that the governor was going to pull a trigger and hit Axel in the head with a hot piece of lead. I never wanted that to show up in any of the work that was done prior to. So I always came at it with a sense of joy and peace. There was so much going on. You've got the Dixon boys out in the woods, and maybe Daryl's thinking this isn't such a good idea. You've got Rick having visions of his wife in a gown going bat nuts. You know, you've got Herschel trying to be a peacemaker and keep Glenn from going off and being a loose cannon, and all these things. So much turmoil going on that I wanted Axel to just have a sense of calm. And so when he talked about, I like it here, you know, it makes sense for me. They tell me what to do, and that always worked best for me. Yeah, I've seen a lot of guys crack, but not here. And that worked for me. I really enjoyed that work. So, you know, so those two episodes were some of my favorite. I will say there was a scene that we shot which never made it to screen, and it was only because it didn't fit. But there was a scene where Rick comes back and informs Axel that Oscar's been killed when he went out to pull the rescue, and Axel gets in very upset, and he attacks Rick, and he kind of gets in Rick's face. And it was really cool because Axel was so bothered that Oscar had been killed. It was just a lot, Rick, to have to go through, deal with Axel, then go walk into the next room and deal with Tyrese and his gang, and then all of a sudden see the vision of Lori. So we had to temper the front end of that down a little bit. But I always appreciate Andrew Lincoln for allowing me to try that and the show they were always very good for me. That was the day that that I had found out Tony Scott had killed himself, and I was very upset on a very personal level that day, and I was frustrated and angry, and I decided that I would put that into my work, into that scene. I tried that, and Andrew Lincoln was very available for me to experiment with that. And while it was really cool, it didn't fit the dynamic of what we were trying to do. But my experience on the show has been incredible. Everybody works so hard, and it shows up. Obviously the show's very good, and it shows. So
Indeed, very sad about Mr. Scott's.
no doubt, we were all incredible fans. I think his work was delightful, and I have to say, just being around him was infectious. His energy and his spirit is like working with a leprechaun or it was like working with Willy Wonka, I always said. It was so fun.
I'm still surprised they didn't allow that scene to make it into the episode, because introducing the prisoners, I'm really surprised how much they just killed off new characters and just passed them over.
We always felt like that the whole prisoner experience was lost when you started undoing them. What was the point? And so, I told Glenn, I said, if you'd have just had Rick came back and executed Axel and Oscar at gunpoint the way he was set up to do, because we didn't get to carry it through as much. And he apologized for that. He just got himself into a point where he knew the fans were getting a little too comfortable and getting to know people, and he needed to pull the rug out from underneath them, and he wasn't ready to he knew that in the season he was going to lose some of the original characters like T-Dog, like Lori, and he wasn't ready to do that at that point. And he knew that Axel was being well liked, and he just felt like it would serve them.
Given that several months have passed since Home aired in February, how do you feel about Axel's death now?
Look, I feel like, Lou Temple's going to be able to carry on, fortunately, but Axel will not. And I guess I feel most, Dan, disappointed that he is not. He had more to do with the group, and I think he had a lot to offer, and I think there was a lot more to learn about him, and now we won't get to do that. So I guess I would be really disappointed for Axel, the character.
Yeah, I'm still pissed off too, because they introduced this entire new cast and they basically got rid of him. Yeah, I love Rick, I love Glenn, I love Herschel, but I like to see new characters, new secondary characters as well, and get to know them as well. And when they're just killed off, you just say, what happened? I'm confused. What?
This actually ties with my next question.
Would you have liked Axel's fate to be different, since the show has done some changes to main and secondary characters from the comics? And maybe tied with the next one, how would you have felt if Axel joined the governor instead of being killed by him?
I came into the show with the understanding that Axel was going to be a serial killer, a kidnapper, a rapist, and that he was going to cause havoc. He was going to take one of the survivors, take one of the young people, I assume Beth, out into the woods as an angel of mercy, and that the survivors were going to be chasing Axel. I mean, that was the story that was pitched to me prior to coming on. So then when I arrived, that all got changed. So I was totally aware that the possibility that Axel might be a bit villainous was there. And though we were all continuing to try to make him fun, and at some point they said, we'd like for you to bring some levity to it, but if you can you reserve some fangs in the closet so that if we do want to pull the dark card, we can. And that's something that I did. And so I think that, we don't know. Axel could have been a pathological liar. Could he have gone with the governor? I think he would have recognized a lot of what the governor was going through and maybe understood the governor a bit more than Merle would, for instance. And I think he would have been able to know how to navigate the governor a little bit more than some of the other people, some of the other characters did. There was definitely in the comic books, there are definitely a bit of darkness to the Axel character. I wanted to establish him being liked on the front end, you know, and then we could see that we could go dark later if we needed to or wanted to.
I like Axel as a character, and I didn't want him to go. But when he got you, I was like, oh my, and just I was like, oh.
See, I was shocked. Like,
Yeah.
like, it was like,
Yeah. Like,
yeah, we were really trying to accomplish. We wanted it to be a gut punch,
Yeah.
and
it was a gut punch.
yeah,
Because you're like laughing with him 1 second, and then boom, oh, he's dead.
just yeah.
right.
It's like,
My the exact words were "holy shit."
Yeah, that's one of Axel's favorite quotes. Again, saying that thing that we all thought, or, you know, when you see a man get his leg chopped off, that's basically what you'd say, holy shit. In the case of Herschel, when we first revealed the prisoners. With Axel's death, we really wanted it to come as a shock and as a gut punch. And I'm really proud how we pulled that off, because I'm hopeful that people, you know, didn't see it coming, or if they did see it coming, they didn't see it coming at that moment, and that it was fairly shocking. And the response that I've heard back from everybody is that it was. And so I'm very pleased with that. And again, it took some work and preparation, because you know, you don't want it to be you don't want to play the front of that, you know, the front of the scene by playing it in the back. But I'm very, very happy and proud with it.
Yeah, we'll miss Axel, that's for sure.
I appreciate that. I miss Axel.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. I keep trying to get the writers, and again, there's no spoiler here, and I'm not starting a rumor, but I just feel like it would be great to have a standalone episode the way last season, for season 3, the episode with Morgan, which was such a great episode.
Oh yeah.
If somehow we had a flashback scene to the prison riot and what went down during that apocalyptic event at the prison, and how, you know, the 5 of us got thrown into that cell, and what was crazy. So I keep trying to pitch that to the writers. I'm not sure they listen.
I hope they do, because they usually do each season these web series about even the most minor moments. Like, for instance, they did one about the bicycle girl from season 1, and they did this basically this story about how she got there. So they could make like a 5-part like miniseries on the website, like web series about the prisoners, and show what was true, what was a lie. Because yeah, Axel did say all those really conflictuous things like the Joker. Do you know how I got these scars? And then the viewer has to decide on his own, and it would be awesome to basically see how it really happens. Like, so that part was true, but that was a lie. Oh my.
Yeah, I think the show really has a lot of elements in that regard, and there's so much to do. They've got a lot of storylines. I know we'd all be excited to come back and do that, but I do know that that this year the storylines will be very mysterious, very dark, and very action-packed. So I imagine it's going to be an incredible season. And of course, I talk to everyone still, so I know for a fact from Norman and Andrew and David and Steve and Yan and Scott Wilson, they're filming right now, and it's going very well, and it's going to be really crazy.
Yeah, right.
Yet again, another really crazy, fantastic season. Look, I'll always be a part of The Walking Dead, and I'm very proud of that. And if they called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, can you come put on a white dress and be in Rick's dreams?" I'd do it. Yeah, yeah, I will do it.
Yeah. Going from your 2 quotes, because it fits actually perfectly well in my last question.
Axel's quotes and basically the way Axel will live on in The Walking Dead. How do you feel about your catchphrase, "You follow me," being uttered by other characters in future episodes, and does it make you feel like that is how Axel will live on in The Walking Dead?
I do think that catchphrase was kind of his brand.
Yeah.
Probably not as much as his mustache, as it turned out. I think his mustache became epic, and that is something I still maintain that today, and people recognize me as Axel. I think a lot with the mustache. I wore that mustache, fellas, because at the time that I got hired to start The Walking Dead, I was still doing the Lone Ranger, and I still had a month to film, so I couldn't shave that. And so they said, that's okay, we like it, and you can keep it in The Walking Dead. And so, of course, I did. In the comic books, Axel uses "you follow me" all the time. It's a throwback term from, the 60s and the 70s, kind of, Southern redneck biker hippie talk. You follow me, man?
Yeah.
And so that was something that I wanted to land, but not overuse. I thought it may have been a bit overused in the comic book, and I wanted to be very careful of that when we started building Axel on television. But I liked using it, and I kind of picked my spots, and the writers were very good about not overusing it too. Could someone else say it? Sure. I think someone else could say it, but I think when they do, it's going to harken memories of Axel.
Yeah.
So if they use it in fondness, remember that guy, Axel, you follow me? I think that's great. If they try to pick it up as their own, I think it'll forever be Axel and only Axels. And so I don't mind anyone using it because it's going to remind everybody of Axel essentially. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was fun, and I thought it was used well.
Indeed, and I think Mr. Kirkman also did note that it will be mentioned and uttered by other characters in the future. So I cannot wait to hear it, like in season 4, somebody saying it, and it's pretty awesome to know that actually now, a fun piece of trivia, we now know that actually the Lone Ranger affected The Walking Dead.
Yeah, imagine that.
Oh, yeah.
How about that? In the facial hair follicle department, yes, the Lone Ranger indirectly had an influence on The Walking Dead. And so Hollis, the Ranger Hollis, who is portrayed by Lou Temple in The Lone Ranger, he transcended into Axel as the gregarious, colloquial character of a prisoner of The Walking Dead.
I did not expect that. Nice little piece of trivia. It should be on the...
Nice little piece of trivia. I like, I get all manner of mustache attention in the form of I get mustache wax sent to me, mustache combs. A little girl came up with a catchphrase the other day. She said, Mr. Temple, I mustache you a question, but I'll shave it for later, which I thought was quite great. And yeah, so it's been good. So get your mustaches going, boys. I mean, ladies are loving a mustache. They're quite in vogue these days, or as you fellas say, tash. Right? You got a nice tash.
Yes, I'm growing mine right now as well.
Good. Get your tash in order.
Will do. So thank you very much for answering my question, Mr. Temple. I'm going to hand you over now to Andrew.
Thanks, Dan. Such a pleasure to visit with you.
Thank you.
All right, dude. Andrew, after all that, you've waited so patiently and so politely, and that's to be commended. Last but not least, can we say that? Okay.
I guess we could. Right. My first question for you is how was your experience with the cast of The Walking Dead?
That's a great question, and because it's a great answer, because it was a great experience. This group of people are so lovely, and I've done a lot of work, and I had done a lot of work prior to coming into this show, but I was just moved by the support and the effort put forth by this entire community, not just the cast, but the writers, the producers, the directors, the camera department, hair, makeup, wardrobe. Everybody showed up with their best foot forward. Everybody showed up with their A game, as we like to say. Everybody showed up not resting on the laurels of an incredible show that had been done the week before or an incredible audience rating, but everyone showed up as if it might be their last episode. and in some cases, for some of us, it was. It was such an entirely huge effort of hard work and good work, not just hard work. There's hard work and there's good hard work, and this is a group of people, and that probably starts with Andrew Lincoln, in my opinion. He's such an ace, and he works incredibly hard, and he's so focused, never drops, never breaks into his dialect, his normal voice, always maintains his Rick, because he feels that's important. Here's a good example. On the very first day of our shoot, we were to be shot to reveal us as prisoners, where I do say holy shit upon seeing Herschel getting his leg cut off. Remember, this is the first time we'd seen outside humans, and we see a man get his leg chopped off. The cast, the regular group, had that day off, and every one of them arrived that day in order to provide us with that scene that they had shot several days earlier, that we as the new guys could get the level of intensity of that scene was. And it was, that showed me right there and then what degree this work was going to be. I think everybody brings so much to the show, and such a different way, and there's such a good bond, and there's no prima donnas, and there's no status of who's number one and who's number six. It just flows, and that was a real treat. I mean, that is a very special experience. And now people ask me, what will you take from The Walking Dead? That's what I take from The Walking Dead. A group of people, every person that puts forth their very best effort, and it shows up. It's lovely.
My next question is, did you feel that Axel could have lived longer?
No doubt about it. Yeah, I felt for sure that Axel had more life in the show, more storyline. Obviously, there was something going on with he and Carol. I think it would have been interesting that he and Rick had something to resolve. Again, I think he bared a grudge a bit about Oscar having been taken out and killed on a recovery mission. I think that Herschel and Axel would have been able just to sit down and talk about bygone times. And I think that aside from the Carol situation, I think Daryl and Axel had reason to converse about bad brothers. I think they both had asshole brothers that they could speak to. And I think Axel was fairly serviceable as a handyman. He could have provided that. And then I also think there was room to not be so certain. If there's a group of people that still weren't convinced that Axel was who he said he was, I would say they may have been onto something, or it was certainly possible. So yeah, I thought there was a lot left for Axel to provide to the show. And that being said, I understood when it was presented to me as to why Axel was leaving. I also understood that. I didn't like it. That's not to say I didn't appeal it, but at the end of the day, to serve the show, I had to approach it with support, and so I did. And but yes, thank you for asking. I feel like Axel definitely did, and I felt like Lou Temple did too. I was learning as much on the show as Axel was. I was fascinated by Andrew Lincoln's work and David Morrissey's work. I was fascinated by Norman Reedus's work. He's a very fine craftsman. Yes, he's good looking and hot and super cool, but guess what? He's quite an actor, and he does, and I won't give away secrets, but he taught me some things that I am forever grateful. And yeah, I learned on that set as well. So I was fortunate and blessed to be on it. And it doesn't suck to be on the #1 show in not just America, but the world, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. My final question is, are you looking forward to season 4 of The Walking Dead?
So much. I can't even tell you. and though I have some insight, which almost makes it worse, because it's like, how are they going to pull that off? How are they going to do that? How did you just tell me? Really? Did we just have a pint and talk about what I think we just talked about, Norman Reedus? Oh my God. How did you? Oh, don't even tell me. I got to see it to believe it. So I have a lot of that, which is also heightening my anticipation for the show. And so I just know it's going to be great. Robert Kirkman never fails to deliver. Scott Gimple is running the show now. He's been a writer from day one. He knows the show. He's fantastic. Everybody is fully charged. It just feels like the level of intensity just keeps getting ramped up and higher and higher. New characters are brought in. And yeah, am I excited? Heck yes. And I adore, if you can't tell, I really like the people that are on the show. And so it's fantastic to see your friends doing so well on a fantastic show.
In October, I'm actually meeting Chad Coleman, who's obviously in season 4 of The Walking Dead, and season 3 as well.
He and I got, because when he was brought in, we were staying at the same hotel. We did not know each other prior. Certainly we knew each other's work. So we became fast friends. We would go to baseball games in Atlanta, and we would go to dinner. We're very dear friends, and I'm so excited for him. I always say this, keep your eye on Tyrese.
Oh.
I mean, make no mistake, he is a force to be reckoned with. And we all know that from the graphic novels, right?
Yeah.
And the trailer.
Yeah. How about that?
The way he's taking on all those walkers.
Oh, it was amazing. Just
yeah.
I'm a little concerned
so
about.
I feel that Tyrese is somebody. Look, if somebody wanted to put odds, and let's just say the show goes 9 more years, last man standing, my money might be on Tyrese.
Yeah, hasn't I think it was Kirkman himself always said that Tyrese was one of his favorite characters.
I feel like Robert really adores Tyrese, and I feel like there's a little bit of Robert in every one of our characters, every one of them. And it's hard when you meet Robert to really pin down who he is in the show. It certainly would not be Rick, and it wouldn't be Axel, and it wouldn't be Tyrese, but there's a part of Robert Kirkman in all of them, obviously. And I think that's what makes him so brilliant, is that he can give each of us that type of voice different. It's really becomes quite rote to write the same voice, and he does not do that. I also give the writers a lot of credit for bringing the 2 dimensions of the graphic novel to the 3-dimension world of television. So, and that was something that we always wanted to maintain. I feel like the show could be going back towards the graphic novel in this season 4, which means that it'll be more violent, if at all possible. If that's possible, I gotta believe we're going to see even more violence in season 4. I know that. I mean, not that season 3 didn't have enough, but I think we're gonna get a heavy dose of that every week.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks for answering my questions.
My pleasure.
I'll now hand it back over to Rory.
So we also have some questions from some of our Facebook followers for you, Lou.
Yeah.
From Johnny Beggs. His first question is, did you watch The Walking Dead before you joined the show?
So interesting. I did, but not as actively, because typically I was out working, and when you're working, you tend not to, you're in a hotel room and you don't always have this available schedule. I was first introduced to The Walking Dead based on my experience, I suppose, in the horror genre, and somebody put the graphic novel on my desk, and of course I saw it and I thought it was brilliant. And when I heard they were doing a television show, again, my knee-jerk reaction was, how would they pull this off? And of course they did with aplomb. I was brought in originally to read. I auditioned for The Walking Dead for the role of Merle, my very first exposure. And of course they hired Michael Rooker, thankfully. And then I was brought in later, much later, to read for Merle's brother, who at that point didn't even have a name.
Oh.
In fact, they hadn't even written the sides, or they hadn't written the part. So you had to audition for Merle's brother, who ended up being Daryl, and thankfully they hired Norman Reedus with Merle's lines. And so I was like, what is this? Is it his twin brother, or who is, what? So they found Norman, which was great. So they had known who I was, and I had certainly known who they were. And then when Axel came, we kind of did the little courting process and a little audition process, and then we got into negotiating as to whether or not I would be part of the show, which thankfully I was. So to answer Johnny Bag's questions, yes, but not probably as faithfully as Johnny Bags or Rory or Dan or Andrew.
I only became a fan this year, just pointing out there.
I think that's pretty cool. I actually say that, and a lot of the audience would take offense to this. I think if you jumped in on season 3, it encapsulates a lot of the first 3 seasons. You could figure out how it's been, how we've got to this point. You'd miss Shane. That would be the place that I would say.
Yeah.
And that's and Jeff DeMunn. You'd miss those two. So I feel like that wouldn't be great. But yeah, season 3 kind of sets it up.
I've seen all of the episodes except for the last 2 of season 3 at this stage. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, those are pretty amazing episodes, I have to say.
Especially the last one. The last one's amazing.
It truly is. Yes, indeed.
And also speaking of Shane as well, I'm actually meeting John as well in October as well.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
We mentioned that Chad's up.
Yeah, so I'll be meeting both of them.
Where?
London Film.
London Film and Comic Con.
Oh, that's going to be great. That's going to be a great show. I will call somebody and make sure that I am considered to go to that. Although I'm sure at this point they're booked up, but that would be a show I'd like to do. I do the one in Birmingham occasionally, at the NEC, and
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty cool. I liked it. I'm sure that London would like, not just London. I'm sure that the UK would like to see me, or they might. I don't know.
I'd love to get your autograph.
Yeah. But John Bernthal is fantastic. I adore him. Of course, we've never worked together, but based on some of these events, these conventions, he and I have been able to spend time together, and we get on really well. And I really like him very much, and I respect his work also.
So anyway, Johnny's second question for you is, why do you think Axel is in prison?
Why do I think he's in prison? Circumstances. He's a victim of misfortunate circumstance. That's a big, broad answer, Johnny. That's the big brush strokes. Johnny really wants to know, was he telling the truth on any of this? And I will say to Johnny, Axel was in prison for none of the reasons that he provided, but reasons much worse.
Oh, some dark hint there. It's a very dark hint there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So maybe on those webisodes or a flashback, we get insight to that.
Definitely. Yeah, that would be really cool. Johnny's third and final question is, how long before you shot the episode did you know Axel would die?
Oh, 3 weeks. That is a good question. I was fortunate that that Glenn Mazzara, who was the showrunner of season 3, had given me a call, and I truly thought that we were going to talk about character development, which obviously we did. Lou, this is hard. We're going to have to take you out. And of course, as I said, I did the denial dance, and then you recognize that you have to commit to the good of the show. He was so kind that he invited me to come into the writer's room to help write the episode. And I said, I feel like they're very competent. They've been doing so well. But here were some, and I offered some notes and some thoughts that, well, you know, one of the things he asked is if I wanted to become reanimated into a zombie, and I said, hell no. What? So Carl can come out and put me down? No, no, no. I also offered that I wanted it to come out of nowhere, and he said, yeah, I think so too, and we've got a good plan we think we can pull off. And then he said, we've got so much to do with Axel. We're going to have to do a lot in a very short time span of an episode. So it was written by Nicole Beatty, who's a great writer on the show, and she actually was the writer of the very first episode that I did as well, the first and last. So I guess I should thank her and also discipline her for taking me out. But it was great. But yeah, tell Johnny Bags 3 weeks, and at first it was very private between the show and myself, and then accordingly, I'd say about 4 or 5 days later, he had let the cast know, and then everybody comes to you with a lot of morality on their mind. They're so sorry. And yet I was privy to the conversations that, well, we could take so-and-so out, or we could take so-and-so out, or we could take Lou out. You know, so when they came, I'm so sorry that you got to, I felt like telling them, well, dude, look, it was almost you. You should be happy that they took me, because it could have been you. But no, I'm very proud of how we left and how we came in and what we did in our very short time with Axel.
Yeah, definitely. And we also have some more Facebook photo questions from Renesmee Montague. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And she asked, how did you get on The Walking Dead, and was it difficult to audition for it?
Well, as I'd said, I think there was, the show is shot in Atlanta, and the graphic novel, it's set in Atlanta. And that's, for those of you Europeans that haven't been to Atlanta, that's in the southern region of the United States. And I'm a Southerner, and that fits very naturally for me. And as acting opportunities go, those kind of roles seem to find me. And they find me, they don't define me. But The Walking Dead knew of me because I had been in for the casting department and their producers previously. Was it hard? I suppose that it was, because there's so many good actors that would love to be on the show that don't get the opportunity to. So I never really considered that the opportunity was a difficult one to get. I just considered that it was an opportunity on a very good show. And when I say very good, I mean that it was written well and produced well, and it critically, it's very good, not just very popular. So, yeah, I suppose those things are difficult, you know, hard, yes. And I think my reputation or my body of work represented me to The Walking Dead to be castable or cast in it.
Her second question, she asked, how is it like living in a zombie apocalypse?
You know, for me, for Axel, it's terrifying, because life is precious, and the threat of life loss is always imminent. And for a kind of a slow moving creature who enjoys life, seemingly, again, this was the Axel that we got to know. The Axel we didn't get to know very well, maybe really enjoyed a zombie apocalypse, not unlike Tomas. All rules are off, you know, all those moral lines are erased. So, but in general, I think Axel didn't enjoy fearing for his life or anything. And so living in fear is quite an awakening, actually. And I think that Axel didn't necessarily relish it, but he also is very good at assimilating and fitting in and becoming a chameleon. So He's a survivor, and that's exactly what you have to do in a zombie apocalypse.
And her final question is, would you be scared if there's an actual zombie apocalypse, and would you try to survive?
I would, hell yes, I would be scared. I would, my weapon of choice would be Michonne. Michonne, I would want her to be my best friend. And would I try to survive? That's a great question. Little does she know what a esoteric question that is, because there's a study of would you try to survive, or is it considered the rapture, and is it time to let go of that survival? I think my instinct in nature is to survive, and I believe, yes, I would do anything I could to and with my loved ones try to survive. Yes.
So that's all of our questions for you, Lou. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast and talking to us.
Indeed.
Well, my pleasure. I'm excited to be here. It's an absolute delight. I will say I will raise a pint, or let's go get a Pimm's or a shandy. I could do it with a shandy. Okay, yeah, let's go. Yeah, Jack Daniels. That's fine. In Bulgaria, I'm not sure what we would toast with. Maybe vodka.
Most Western drinks are welcome, but we have our local like rakia, which is basically of a very strong alcoholic beverage. But yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah. And at the very least, we all can agree to be geek podcast geeks.
Oh, yeah. Indeed.
In that being said, if I didn't reference this, the biggest geek that I've ever met, I use that term loosely, but is Johnny Depp. He's the absolute king of the geeks. That guy will discuss
No way.
Yeah, you think he's quite shy. He's quite self-aware. He's brilliant. He adores oddities. He will spend as much time talking about the square root of pi or a wormhole in space as he will about his next role. So there you go. And he's handsome and gets all the chicks. So go geeks, I say. I want to be a geek. And now that I've been on the Geek podcast, I think I can submit my application for geekhood.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, definitely. If you're not already there, that is.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, fellas, I thank you so much. It's been an absolute delight and a pleasure. And I sign off by saying, keep up on The Walking Dead. Keep up on Lou Temple. You can follow me at Lou Temple Actor. That is me. I will hit you up. Facebook page is a fan page, but the important stuff does get to me, right, Rory?
Yes, I can verify that because my stuff did get there.
and here we are. And I say good on y'all. You follow me?
Yep,
we do.
Definitely.
Right on. All right. So long, fellas.
Bye. So long.
All right. See you later.
Adios.
Okay, that was awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that was.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that was really good, though. It went on for ages.
Well, that's what a podcast interview should be like, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'd never stop awkwardly, didn't know what to ask him. It's we did have a bunch of questions, and I'm really happy how ready and open he was to answer any of our questions and share his opinions of the whole experience of being Axel, and including the questions about the Devil's Rejects and Rango.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on to our first discussion topic of the night. Dan and Andrew, since they haven't had a chance before, are going to discuss some of their favorite episodes and characters from The Walking Dead. So I'll just let you two handle this.
This is very difficult because obviously, as a massive Walking Dead fan, I like all of the episodes. But my favorite character is definitely got to be Rick or Daryl.
Oh yeah. If I have to go, by episode personally, I could just split them into by season, like top 2 episodes per season, and basically then say which is or was my favorite character or characters, because starting with season 1, I mean, the first episodes, like Days Gone By and Guts, the first 2 episodes, basically those got me hooked because they were tight, they were perfectly written, and the whole situation they presented and the way they presented it was really spectacular, especially the part with the covering of themselves. The characters cover themselves with guts and proceeded to try to
Oh
walk
yeah.
away, but then fate intervened, and I think that's the thing we're gonna see in season 4. Nature.
Yeah, I'm so glad that also Smell-O-Vision isn't invented yet, because otherwise it'll be pretty messy. The
Yeah,
smell.
well, that will allow a lot of shows to be on. I mean, I think most reality shows would be off because, God, I don't want to know what's in the house of Big Brother or something. I don't want to smell what's
Oh
there.
no. Ooh.
But
Ooh.
Then going to season 2,
it started off great. Okay, the first episode or two was good, but then it just stayed like. I got tired of the farm, but the episode that really shocked me, and the other one I'm gonna say in a bit, was the one that showed us spoilers. Sophia, the little girl, was dead, and she became a
Yeah.
walker. That freaking just I was shocked. It's a rarity. And when you see this little kid that was like the only other child on the show, along with Carl,
Yeah.
disappear and then die and come back as a zombie, it's really tragic, and it's really ballsy, if you ask me. And I was really shocked by it.
Oh, yes, scary stuff. But also,
Yeah,
you got to
but
remember.
yeah, sorry to interrupt, Andrew, but another thing as well is Sophia was still alive at that point in the comics. In fact, I think still is.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think that's another shocking thing to come out of Sophia's death.
yeah, again, but that's the way I also wanted to ask those questions about Axel, because the show did take liberties with some of their characters, and some of them some were really shocking and good, like Sophia, because that was shocking, and basically, for shock value, it did attract attention. After being shocked and amazed by the ballsiness of pretty much Dead Already, that episode, basically the next one, is the season finale of season 2, beside the dying fire. Because, okay, that episode was really edgy, really action packed. God,
Oh
the
yeah.
finale. I mean, okay, we could start with spoilers. Shane's death, if that's even a spoiler at this point. But from Shane's death and becoming a zombie until the moment they find themselves on the street and discovering that they're all infected and they can, die anyway and turn into a zombie. Walker, I'm sorry. Uh,
I was really shocked at that actually.
yeah,
I was like, oh, no.
yeah,
And then do you know what I quite like? Was as a teaser for season 3. When they panned out, you can see
yeah,
the prison.
yeah. That's
You can see the prison in the background.
I couldn't wait for it, but I before, because I didn't read the comics so far. I got to one point, but I didn't want to read to be spoiled, like learn if the governor dies or something. But the episode ended geniusly because I basically got tired of the farm and I wanted that place to burn, and yippee, I got my
Yeah.
wish, because what I loved about the show was that the characters were always on the move from season one's episode 1 up until the end of season 2. Actually, okay, the end of season 1. They were always on the move, and in season 2, they were kind of stuck in one place and they almost didn't move. They were like in this idyllic place and dealing with a farm, which was okay, but it was not for an entire season. Even the Walking Dead video game, the one with the genius performance by Dave Fennoy as Lee Everett,
Oh my God.
indeed.
Yeah, I cried. When he died. Spoiler alert: when he
Yeah,
died.
yeah. But again, they spend really a little amount of time on Herschel's farm in the first episode. It's like you meet Herschel, he heals your wounds, you sleep over there, and then something bad happens. I'm not gonna say anything. People should play the game. It's pretty awesome. The show maybe should have not spent so much time on the farm. It got some really interesting moments, and I'm gonna get to one of them. Really sad for me, but basically, yeah, the season finale was really epic. The way they got out of it, I was shocked. Okay, there were a lot of shockers, but I was surprised that not everybody from Herschel's family was, eaten.
Herschel was actually originally gonna die in that episode,
Yeah,
but they rewrote it so he didn't.
Indeed, but actually that's what I like, because after my most favorite character, Dale, died, I was really bummed that I was left with no favorite character. And then, what Shane proved and everybody else in season 3 proved is that the old society is gone, and all the norms that my favorite character Dale tried to keep were basically, gone, and it was just pointless. I mean, I didn't want him to see him die, but basically, if you want to live peacefully in such a harsh world, you are gonna, end up with a walker on your chest, basically. Even though I'm still, God darn it.
We jumped to season 3.
Yeah.
Where there's supposed to be another spoiler alert, where obviously, Mel.
Yeah.
I tell you, I cried at that again because you felt sorry for Daryl, didn't you? You know what I mean? Because obviously,
Actually, I was shocked that they killed such a fan favorite like Merle. I mean, I was really shocked because Norman Reedus did an amazing job reacting to the whole situation.
Oh yeah, he did.
Like,
but I was crying to it because you felt bad for him.
Yeah.
Because obviously Mel has been bullying it.
Yeah.
Daryl.
I think that was
and all
the
that.
episode, This Sorrowful Life or something. This Sorrowful.
Yeah.
And it was basically that episode, and plus the episodes Sick and Clear. They're not the same episode. Sick is the first episode, basically when we interact with, Axel's character and the other prisoners, which is basically.
Yeah, and Clear is the one with Morgan's return.
Yeah, but that's so awesome on a different level, because you see how much, you see how the whole apocalypse is affecting Rick and the others, and you see how it really messed up Morgan, because his son in the end got eaten as well, and just sad.
Because if I'm correct, it wasn't a Morgan still in the same house, I think,
Yeah.
and then that incident
Actually
happened there.
Yeah, that's true. I think they were back in the same town.
It's like and the same house.
Yeah, and that's why I think that episode had the moment when Carl went back to that little restaurant to get the picture of his family.
Yeah.
Which was actually, I'm still surprised that they actually went so far to go back to the location from the first season, which is still amazing.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see how it was changed, how many of the characters have moved on, and Morgan is still stuck. And I'm pretty sure I even saw his wife in the restaurant.
Possible, yeah, because obviously he didn't have the guts to kill her.
Yeah, I still think,
because obviously, it was still his wife.
Yeah, I still think they could have, and they maybe might have, should have, I'm not sure, shown Morgan's kid as well, like a zombie. That would have been really impressive.
Yeah, Dwayne, because they didn't really explain what happened with him.
Well, they just said that he just turned his back and then some walker jumped him. I think that was
his mom, who was a walker, jumped him, and then Morgan was forced to put it down finally.
Well, I think he was too late, and I think he lost everything at that point. But that episode, the episode with Merle. God, that's the thing with season 3. Why season 3 is better than season 2. Season 3 did do a lot more things with new characters, new situations, new locations, which I love, basically. And that's why season 3 is, aside from season 1, is my favorite season, especially because of the characters.
Yeah, definitely. And Andrew, who are some of your favorite characters and some of your favorite episodes?
Well, definitely Rick is definitely, him and Daryl are definitely my favorite characters. Of the past characters, my favorite ones of Mel Dixon, Mr. Michael Rooker,
Yeah.
and Governor intrigues me as well. The Governor intrigues me a lot.
Yeah, he confused me
You
a
know what
lot.
I mean? Because obviously he was a bit messed up. Obviously, with his daughter in his cupboard, it's
Yeah,
kind of
again,
freaky. And like all of them heads with zombies in it. Ooh.
yeah, that's true. I mean, he is like the actor who portrays him does an amazing job. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
David Morrissey.
yeah, David Morrissey does an amazing job as the governor, but his motives, what the H is his deal? I don't get what is his motivation, especially after he shot up all his people. I mean, I mean, he just confuses me. I don't know. Maybe he'll make sense more in the future, but I'm confused by the
Yeah.
governor. Maybe that's the point. I don't know. Maybe he's the Joker. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So are you both ready to move on to another topic?
Uh,
Oh yeah, sure,
yeah,
of
I'm
course.
ready. I said my favorite episodes and characters, so let's move on.
Yeah, so next up, of course, there was the big reveal last week of the 12th Doctor for Doctor Who finally being announced, and it will be Peter Capaldi. And yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of raging young fans over the weekend.
Well, I was not one of them. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
okay, but I have a point. I have an opinion on this. It's okay. I agree with some of the points that it's good that the show is going back to an older actor to basically not just appeal to the younger demographic, but the show is going back to like the days of the older doctors. But again, he looks evil. He looks freaking evil. Have you seen his
He's
face?
old.
No, he's not. Some of the earlier doctors, they were older, but they could make like a sympathetic face and they would not look. I mean, Rory, I think you've seen that picture I posted on Facebook. His eyes are popping out. He basically needs almost no makeup and he would make the perfect zombie. He's like,
Yeah,
he's really scary. He could make a great villain, but he's not
yeah,
like.
I actually agree with you
He's,
that I think he would make a great zombie.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, and one point when we go to Zombie is that actually he was, I think, part of the movie World War Z with Brad Pitt.
Yeah, and there was a big hint there.
Yeah,
With
he
his
was like World Health Organization doctor. It's like, doing. It's like that was so awesome. It's like, yeah, maybe they just knew that he was gonna be the doctor, maybe.
Yeah.
But still.
It kind of makes you wonder though, because I saw an image on Facebook,
Yeah.
and it was actually a pretty good comparison, in using an image of Peter Cushing when he was the Doctor in one of those spin-off movies or whatever it was. Yeah, and it was showing an image of Capaldi compared to how Cushing looked as the Doctor, and they actually looked pretty damn similar. It was quite bizarre, to be honest.
Yeah.
Considering I've known Cushing for so long as Grand Moff Taken, and then
yeah, I know Cushing
like
is Van Helsing as and Tarkin. So basically,
Yeah.
it's basically split, but mainly we, the Star Wars geeks, know him as Tarkin. So basically, even if you want to see him as a good fellow Doctor, it's a little hard after seeing what a douchebag he was in A New Hope.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, it's basically the precognition of him being an evil Imperial basically overweighs that of him being a good Doctor. And maybe that's the same case with Capaldi. But the problem with Capaldi is I don't have any previous experience of him, and my first reaction was, "Oh my God, that guy looks evil."
Yeah, I mean, I was actually watching the presentation as it happened, because I was some of my cousins were over, and I had to hang out with them, and they're big Doctor Who fans. So I was watching it a bit. I mean, sure, the pictures posted online didn't look too flattering, but I thought when I saw him come in the suit and all, I thought, yeah, he might do. I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna base an opinion right away. I mean, I'll wait and see what he brings to it when they actually show him as the Doctor. But he looked okay. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think it. I'm not thinking negative or positive yet. I'm just waiting to see what comes of it. Right now, that's my view.
Okay, so we're split on this, but Time will tell.
He has actually been in Doctor Who before, though. He played some character in 2000.
Pompeii, wasn't it? The Pompeii one.
Fires of Pompeii. Yeah, he played a character in that one. That was a good few years ago, I think. Not like in 2008 or 2009, something like that.
You can't have a character like that appear, like, and people do recognize him, and then have him appear as some other role, which is actually the main one, which is actually weird. It's like having Matt Smith appear just like in a couple of months in an episode where he's killed off by the new Doctor, and then they explain it that actually the Doctor takes shape and form of people who exist actually.
Yeah, that would be quite worrying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, you both ready to move on, or do you have anything else you want to say on the Peter Capaldi?
No, actually I'm done.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, okay, so moving on. For those of you who've been following either of my podcasts, this one, or the Voice of a Poet podcast, or just my YouTube channel, something like that in general, you'll know I was at Dublin Comic Con.
No, you don't say.
Today was the Yep, see, Dan proves my point.
No, I'm being sarcastic, but okay, go on.
Yeah, I know. It still proves it, though.
Okay, go on.
I mean, I'm sure people could hear the sarcasm, but yeah, it was the first Dublin Comic Con. It was interesting. I think it's a bit bizarre that they ran out of tickets. Well, not pre-booked ones, but on the day ones at around lunchtime. With 6 hours still to go of the event or around that. I mean, that was a bit troubling. But I pre-booked mine, so I was fine. And even if I hadn't, I was in around 11 into the event, so that was okay. I mean, I honestly thought consider it as a Comic-Con. I mean, obviously it's not going to be as big as any of the other ones, like in America or the UK. But I was surprised at how everything was in one hall. I'm talking everything from the convention. Stalls, displays, even as far as the stages. I mean, the only thing that wasn't was some of the, more kiddie activities, or, running around activities, which was all done on the grass outside. So it was kind of a bit bizarre. The displays, there were some interesting ones. There was a Star Wars display. I think it was a Death Star hallway. Yeah, it was interesting. There were a few members of the 501st Island Echoes there, which was set up only this year, I think. Some pretty good customers. No, not the Emerald Garrison, actual 501st Island, the Garrison. Yeah, someone set up an Island Outpost this year, I think, or late last year.
Right.
Yeah, the Emerald Garrison, they only do their own events. They don't, conventions, I should say. They do events, but non-convention events, if that makes sense.
No, I did not know that. I'm familiar with the Emerald Garrison.
I could be wrong, yeah. I mean, everyone probably knows the Emerald Garrison better. Yeah, they had that. They had a TARDIS display, which was very interesting. Got some pictures of that. One thing I do want to comment on that kind of disappointed me a little bit, compared to, the Heroes and Legends convention, which was dubbed a mini Comic-Con that I attended back in February, is, they actually went to the trouble of making a part of the event separate for, the more gory parts of the event, zombie stuff and like that, actually being made into a zombie. Dublin Comic Con didn't go to any of those lengths. They just had it all there. I mean, kids that don't want to see that kind of stuff would actually see it right in their faces, basically. Whether it's someone face painting someone into a zombie, something like that, or even the Walking Dead display. And let me tell you, the Walking Dead display, well, there were a lot of options, and I went with a gross one. You had a forest backdrop, a kind of dark one, and then you have the Michonne's 2 joyless zombies, and you can get your picture taken of them. I mean, seriously? I mean, are you even trying to be kid-friendly?
Oh, no, really? That sounds awesome.
Believe me, it was awesome. I wasn't scared at all, but when you think about it, the convention really needs to take precautions for little kids who might be scared of that kind of stuff, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And other conventions do. I mean, Don't get me wrong, I completely agree. It sounds awesome. It is, it was. I loved seeing them up close, but I just think they should have been a bit more, considerate, if you know what I'm saying. But it was a great display, and there were some really good stalls as well. I got 4 figures, the new Black Series Padme Amidala, and there was a
Seriously?
stall selling. Yeah, it's the best figure of the wave. Yeah, I also went to another store which was selling coded figures for €5 each, some older ones.
Wow.
Thought might as well get them. A couple of 30th anniversary figures. A-Wing pilot Taicho Kelchu, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And the Rebel on their guards in the background of A New Hope, played by actor Derek Lyons, I think. Could be wrong. And there was one other.
Were there any good Separatist figures or anything, or again being ignored? No Separatists, right? Yeah.
Well, that and I'm most of the Separatists anyway, so I wasn't really paying attention to them. The last figure I got was Saga Collection Mamona Don, otherwise known as Hammerhead, in the A New Hope Cantina.
Nice.
Yeah. The autograph area was, kind of small. I mean, well, it kind of felt small because everyone, pretty much everyone was in Charlie Adler's queue. Apparently, some people had to wait 2 hours just to meet him and get his signature, which was actually free, apparently. Apparently, he was doing free autographs, but charging for sketches. Yeah, but it was kind of sad, though, walking through the autograph hall, the queue was for him, and at most, some of the other guests would have 1 or 2 groups of people, but mostly they probably have none. I mean, all the times I wept to actors or actresses, or even artists, it was like when they had no people. Like, I even got to have a good chat with Femi Taylor, who played Ula in Return of the Jedi, and got a signed picture from her. And she actually, I'm not sure if you've heard that, but she actually spelt my name wrong on it, so she actually offered for tomorrow to get me a replacement, which was really nice of her.
Of course, that's awesome. I mean, of course.
Yeah, and I met voice actor Jason Cannon and did an interview of him for my other podcast, The Voice of the Republic.
Oh yeah, I know that.
He voiced Admiral Ozzel in the Lego Star Wars Empire Strikes Out special. Also talked briefly to Game of Thrones actor Ian Wright, Gregor Clegane, in the 2nd season.
Nice.
And just tall as ever, over 7 foot, makes everyone look small. He recognized me from the first time I met him in February, and Femi remembered me from the time I met her in May.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, he actually does fit very well the description in the show, The Mountain. I mean, he does fit that.
Yeah, he does. He definitely does. There was actually one other interesting store, and I wish I had more money on me, because if I had known there was going to be a store like this, I would have bought the heck out of it. There was actually a store selling legit signed in person after premiere autographs from big name actors, and a whole ton of them. David Tennant, his one as the Doctor went so quickly, within 30 minutes of the event even. Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor, that went quickly too.
Well, I'm not surprised given where you are in the world, basically.
Yeah. There was Billy Piper as Rose Tyler. That was another Doctor Who one. There was some others. Henry Cavill as Superman in Man of Steel. That was a pretty good one.
Really?
It was like 50 euro. Yeah, it was like 50 euro, and I was thinking, nah, I'm not going to get that. So I thought they were cooler ones anyway. But my personal favourite, and this is because it's such a rare one, he doesn't even care for the franchise. At 40 euro, Ralph Fiennes signed Lord Voldemort picture. I wanted it.
I know why you liked it, and you wanted you Harry Potter, not you.
Yeah, but I mean, he doesn't even like the franchise. I mean, any signature from him in a Voldemort picture is a rarity. I was like looking at it and I was saying, I want it.
Well, yeah, you got it, right?
No, I didn't.
You passed
I didn't have enough money. Yeah, I hope it's there tomorrow. Hopefully I can scramble up some more money somehow, because I so want it. And they also had a couple of James Earl Jones signed Vader pictures, James being the voice of Vader in the originals. Yeah, yeah, and there was another really cool one, but I was never going to get it even if I had the money because of how overpriced it was. Daniel Radcliffe signed image of Harry Potter, €100 exactly for that.
Jesus.
I was like, no, just no.
Indeed.
Yeah, there were some other good ones as well. Oh, yeah, they had a couple of David Morrissey as the governor actually going for €30. That was cool.
Right.
They had a couple of good ones. One of him on a highway or something, and then one with him and Penny after Michonne stabbed her through the back of the head. You know, when he's sitting on the ground cradling her in his lap or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that shot. But those were mainly the big ones they had on display that you could see easily. But they also had multiple plastic pockets which you could rifle through, see if there's anything you wanted. And I saw a really cool one, and I know you would actually love it as well because you're a big fan of his. From Spider-Man 2, Alfred Molina signed Doc Ock picture, a promotional shot for the film. That was so cool. It looked so good. It was only €25 too. I was like, whoa, for a big name like that. Considering he doesn't really sign that much. Again, I wish I had that money on me.
Nice.
Yeah, there were some really good ones. I thought there would be some more Star Wars ones. Only Star Wars ones I actually saw were the James Earl Jones ones, but I only got to look through a few of the plastic pockets. There were like 6 of them, and I only got to look at 2. Like, there were so many people at that stall. I mean, it was so popular.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even just, very rare signed actor ones like that. They also had some big widescreen prints, non-signed for €12. Like, very wide. Can't remember the size, but it was pretty huge. I mean, they had some really good Walking Dead ones, of at least 10 or 12 of the cast in the one shot. That would be a great piece to get many signatures on.
Oh yeah, I think which one you're speaking of.
Yeah, there were some really good ones. Overall, Dublin Comic Con, it was a good first event. I think they could have been a bit more caring to the fans because from what I heard, they weren't too polite to anyone who, came late, after the tickets sold out, for the actual day event. Apparently they weren't too polite to them. But I had no problems purely because I avoided the staff. I'm kind of like that at most conventions. Unless I know a staff member already, I'm just like, no, I won't talk to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least you had a good time. That's the most important
thing. Yeah, and I'm going again tomorrow / today because it's actually 1:30 a.m. right now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and I'm today. I went with my friend Daryl, who's more of an Airsofter, Walking Dead fan. Those sort of
Oh my
things.
God! You went with a Daryl to a Walking Dead. Does he have wings on his back?
No.
Oh.
Your dream has been crushed.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, actually, whatever.
Yeah. One of the funniest parts today, though, related to Daryl, like, we were just walking past the TARDIS display at one point, and, like, it's actually funny because Graham was actually meant to come with us, but he, due to personal reasons, he couldn't today, at least, maybe tomorrow, but doubtful, really. Like, he was actually wanting to cosplay as the 11th Doctor. There were so many 11th Doctor cosplays, you won't actually believe it. Out of all the cosplays, there were so many of the 11th Doctor and Deadpool. You look in one way, oh, there's Deadpool. You look the other way, oh, Deadpool. The other way, oh, another Deadpool. Let's look behind us at the entrance. There's a Deadpool coming in.
Yeah, that's sometimes my problem with conventions. That especially when with popular characters, most people love. But you have all these Boba Fett clones, all these Wolfpack clones, and
hey.
No, I'm not saying it as a bad thing. I'm saying that in all that thing, you get one awesome person to come as General Grievous in those elaborate costumes. There's like unique basically, and I even saw.
Yeah, I know the video about.
Yeah, I know you know which one I'm speaking of. It's a genius one. Whoever made it, if you're listening to this, you are a genius for having such a great costume being made.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure it's custom made.
It is a costume.
No, I know it's a costume, but it's custom. That's for sure. And the other one that really impresses me at such situations when you have hundreds of Vadas, and all of a sudden you get shared a picture of Poggle the Lesser cosplay, which whoever cosplayed is that. Awesome. Thank you for spreading the Separatist cause.
Did you actually ever see that General Krell cosplay from Celebration 6?
Yeah, that was incredible. The one with the 500
Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, that was amazing.
Wasn't that again the 501st having just the thematical cosplay?
No, I think the cosplayer was actually a Rebel Legion one who cosplayed as Krell.
Oh.
Because I'm pretty sure we interviewed him on the podcast at one point. The guy who cosplayed as Krell. On the other podcast, I mean, not this one.
I know. Do you want to continue on with the rest?
Oh yeah. As I was
because I know you can share on and on with your great experience, and tomorrow I'm pretty sure you can share a lot more from Dublin. I'm not trying to kill your buzz.
I'll just finish with what I was saying about the TARDIS sphere. Me and Dara were walking past at one point, walking past our display at one point, and out of it comes someone that dresses the Doctor, and we're just walking right past him, and Dara goes, "Nice bow tie," something like that, and the guy's just like, "Oh, thanks." Sweet. I mean, Dara was like, "I can't resist."
Yeah. Nice reaction.
Yeah, anyway, that's everything I have to mention for Dublin Comic Con, except maybe I'll have some more stuff to report on from tomorrow's one, the 11th.
Yeah, I know you will.
Yeah. So anyway, for those of you who've been following us on Facebook, you'll know we promised a couple of new additions to the show starting this episode. So a couple of things to get our listeners more involved with, leaving comments, answering questions, just overall getting more involved with the show, because we don't do this for the fun of it all or to have what we kind of do, but we also do it because we enjoy hearing your opinions on the podcast and your feedback. So we do have a couple of new things. One is Name That Franchise, and then the other is Geekly Trivia Question. I really like what I did there. Weekly, geekly. I mean, come on.
Okay, I will give you that. That's really weekly, geekly question. That's pretty awesome. Can I name the franchise?
You can't name.
No,
you
can
can't
I?
Name,
can I?
Oh, you want to read it out?
Yes. Can I have the honor?
Yeah.
Or do you want to read? Okay, explain and then
I'll just explain the rules first here. So for the first one, Name That Franchise, every week we're going to say a quote. Could be from a movie, TV show, video game, comic, could be from just about anything. So you better know your geek stuff. So we're going to say the quote, where Dan here will do the honors in just a moment. And you'll have to answer in the comments or on the Facebook page which of any of the things I said you think it's from. So, and if you want even better, Max, actually name what part of the franchise, if it's a big franchise, that's from. So Dan, do the honors with the quote.
Will do. Thank you. Hey, walk running's my shtick. You start spinning webs and I'll sue.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Thanks.
Yeah, now let's see if anyone will actually get it.
Well, we'll see, but I personally like this idea.
Yeah. And next up, of course, Geekly Trivia Question.
No. Geekly Weekly. Geekly Weekly.
That just ruins it now.
Okay.
I like Geekly, but not Geekly Weekly.
Okay, I'm gonna cut that out if you want. Okay.
Yes, please.
Will do.
So yeah, again, pretty much almost similar, except of course it's not actually a quote this time. It's actually testing your knowledge and how well you know stuff. And if you only care for one franchise, well, some of these might, test your skill and might get you converted to another franchise to actually find this stuff out. So, another thing I actually want to bring up about both of these, Name That Franchise and Geekly Trivia Question, is every week we don't want to make it too obvious, so we're trying to avoid as much as possible, making the franchises, the question or quote is not from the same franchise the celebrity guest we've interviewed has been. So,
Indeed.
I mean, as much as possible. Sometimes that probably will be that few times, but mostly not. And in this case, maybe not. The Geekly Trivia Question, and it is: which well-known Doctor Who actor from series 1 and 2 of the 2005 onward series appeared in this year's Star Trek Into Darkness? So, like I said, you need to know 2 franchises rather than 1. Well, you can do a lot of research, but...
Well, don't give advice. For Pete's sakes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm saying nothing now.
I know you can do.
So, so if you think you know the answer to either Name That Franchise or Geekly Trivia Question, be sure to leave a comment either on the YouTube link for this episode or post on our Facebook page, Everything Geek Podcast, if you think you know the answer to either. So anyway, are you ready to wrap up, Dan?
I think so. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this episode. I'm personally proud of.
Again.
Yeah, I'm personally proud out of the whole discussion we've had. So yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, make sure to check out our YouTube channels. The podcast is www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/separatist-destroyers. Dan's is www.youtube.com/user/DanGrievousReturns. Andrew's is www.youtube.com/user/GameReviews94. And check out Lou's Facebook page, www.facebook.com/LouTemple. So geeks out, everyone.
Geeks out!